Super. Okay, so good afternoon, everybody, and thank you for joining us. I'm Becky. I'm the Chief Executive Officer of the English Association, and I'm really pleased to be here for this session this afternoon. A quick word about the EA. We are a learning society and a subject association, and we were founded in 1906 to support, promote, and celebrate the discipline of English studies. And we cover all stages of education from primary and early years through to secondary and further education to higher education and beyond. And we cover all parts of the discipline across language, linguistics, literature, and creative writing. Events like this one are made possible by the fantastic contribution of our volunteer speakers. So thank you so much to this afternoon's speakers, Mary and Heyman. We really appreciate it. Thank you. Our members also make it possible to keep these events free and open to all by paying their membership fees. So if you would like to contribute to the national conversation about English and help support our discipline, please do consider joining us. It costs just £55 to support our events and campaigning work for a whole year, and you get access to a range of member benefits, including online access to all our journals. Right, that's enough from me. So I'm going to hand over for our discussion this evening about diversifying the curriculum through the life of Billy Waters. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Becky, for giving us this opportunity today to present our resources. And greetings, everyone. My name is Himan. I'm doing my PhD in English literature here at the University of Roehampton, and it's been 2 years of fun and exciting work with Mary that I'm working as a research assistant on our project, Billy Waters, and we're doing our best to diversify the curriculum through what we'll be doing today. So over to you, Mary, if you want to have a quick introduction.
Thank you, Herman. Yes, hello. My name is Mary Shannon, and I teach English at the University of Roehampton. And you can see a picture of our beautiful campus on the screen. And it's a great pleasure to be here. Thank you so much for having us as we talk you through these free resources for Key Stage 3 or Key Stage 4 English. Amen.
Yeah. So before we begin, we thought it would be best to gather some feedback. And it would be so nice of you and so kind of you actually to scan this QR code and help us gather some of your feedback for our project. And while you're doing so, I'm going to go over and I'm going to give you a quick overview of what we'll be doing today. So we think it's nice to start with a brief activity, what we did with schools, and then I'll go ahead and read some of the feedback that I received from the students, specifically year 9, and then I'll hand over to Mary to tell us about her research and the life of Billy Waters. And then finally, I'll walk you through the website, what we are doing, and why it is important what we are doing. So I think it's gonna take you 20 seconds stop because I just added 2 questions, but I'm gonna wait for 10 seconds. And if you have any trouble getting the link, just let me know. I can pop in the link in the chat.
We do this with students, don't we, Herman, when we're doing workshops in schools? It's always a crazy moment with everyone fishing out their phones.
I cannot see the comments, so but if there's any problem, could you just give me a heads up? Okay, it's fine. So I think we're okay to move on, right? All right. So this is the activity. What you see here is a draft page of the graphic novel that we have designed. And 3 questions. We're going to go over each question one by one. Let's take the first one. What do you see and who could this story be about? You can pop it in the chat, or I'm not sure if you can unmute yourself, but just let's have some fun. Tell us about what you see, stating the obvious. What do you see and who could this story be about? I think you should read it out to me or Becky because I don't know. I can't see the comments. Are there any responses? I'm interested to know.
Yeah, looks like there's 3 in the chat, Herman. Shall I read them out for you?
Well, I'm gonna.
I
I
can
got it.
read them.
Someone having a
You
limb
got them.
amputated. Okay, I see someone in pain. Very good. A black man, probably a slave, getting his leg chopped off. That's actually quite nice. And this is what you see. And this story could be about punishment. Might be. I have no idea. Actually, I'm lying. I have some ideas. Anyways, now this is good. Now let's go to the second question. What links can you make to other things you know? By other things, I mean your literary studies or personal professional background, or what is the first impression when you look at this image? What comes to mind? Let's see what you say here now. It's limited and focuses only on the bad things. Of course. Yep. Of course. In this picture, we have highlighted the problem voluntarily. Like we highlighted one picture of the graphic novel to state the same problem. Wrong question, sorry. Okay. We want more feedbacks. This is feedback. Now, that would be actually an answer for the third question. What are the problems with telling a life story in this way? So we have a link to disability. All right. Someone in pain. There might be punishment. There is disability. Probably medicine before anesthetics was discovered. Great. This is good stuff. And let's specifically talk about the third question. What are the problems with telling a life story in this way? One thing that comes to my mind is simplification. I think life is more complicated than this, but Mary can challenge me, and she does. So, what do you say? What are the problems with telling a life story in this way? There's a delay in my comments. Hopefully, I can see the chats. Being able to verbalize the complexity of what is going on. Great. And there's also another link to disability, one side interpretation. That is also another problem, right? Yeah. So now let me review some of the feedback that I received from the students, specifically the year 9. Regarding the first question, we did the same activity with several pictures, but I'm going to read you the responses specifically to this picture. Regarding the first question, what you see and what could this story be about? It's actually very close to what you said. One student said, I see someone in agonizing pain from being amputated. It is a story about how before great medical achievements, procedures such as amputation were very painful. Another student said, maybe this story can be about what this person did to get his leg amputated, or if it was a sort of torture. Another said, there were many punishments for slaves or racist acts, including whipping. So this may be one. Regarding the second question, how they linked this picture to their literary studies, one student linked it to the Middle Passage as a part of a triangular slave trade. Another one said, this book could be about Black history, could be a biography of Orlando Aguiano, which is a very interesting take. And another one said, it reminds me of Treasure Island, and specifically mentioned Long John Silver, the one-legged pirate, and also Cook in Stevenson's novel. And when we asked them what are the problems with telling a life story in this way, similarly, they said people could discriminate because he is a disabled. There is no evidence that some of the facts might not be true. It might not be accurate. You could accidentally stereotype them. Now, the primary focus of this activity is not whether the responses are correct or incorrect. I think the goal is to spark discussion, to encourage critical thinking, and to somehow guide students to draw their own comparisons with literary texts, or somehow to create this sense of sympathy in students. And this is where the teacher can actually guide these emotions and this knowledge toward what is deemed as true. Now, I'm going to hand it over here. If you do not have any questions, I'm going to hand it over to Mary to tell us about Billy Waters, this image, her research, and I'll be with you soon. Mary?
Thanks, Heyman. I really like the comment Layla just put in the chat saying, I wouldn't say a problem, it's more of a different way to challenge students. And that's absolutely what I think you were getting at there, Heyman, that we have started off sessions with students, giving them this page and saying, like, what do you see? Spark the conversation. And then we've given them the story of Billy Waters, the man who is shown on this page of the graphic novel we've done. So what I'm going to do now briefly is tell you the story of Billy Waters, tell you his story, and hopefully show you why he enthuses students so much in the classroom. His story touches on themes of race, disability, otherness, being an outsider, masculinity. It gives interesting context if you're looking at texts that deal with any of those themes, but also if you want to add context, if you're talking in the classroom about 19th century London, about empire, about poverty. So if you're talking about London in A Christmas Carol, or race in Jane Eyre, or empire in Mansfield Park, or even just the concept, not just the concept, but even the concept of how we tell stories, who gets to tell their story, and how you might do that for yourself. What is your story? How do you want your story to be remembered? Billy Waters can be used in the classroom to get students thinking about writing and characters and how we create narratives. He became famous about 10 years after Jane Austen publishes Pride and Prejudice, and about 10 years before Charles Dickens publishes Oliver Twist. So he sits really usefully in Regency Britain, in the gap between Olaudah Equiano's life and Mary Seacole's life, between the 18th century and the Victorian periods. And because his story says a lot about that period's approaches to race and to disability, he's a really interesting person to talk about during Black History Month and during Disability History Month. So without further ado, let me tell you his story. Heyman, could you flick the slide on, please? So I encountered Billy Waters just like Regency readers would have first encountered him, in a book called Life in London. I was in the British Library in St Pancras, and a colleague of mine told me to read this book. Life in London was published in the 1820s, so almost exactly 200 years ago. As I say, right between Jane Austen's kind of peak time and before just as Dickens is starting to get famous. And it was so popular. It was a massive hit in its day, but it's been forgotten now. One of the reasons Life in London was such a popular book was the pictures. And in this picture, this shows a pub in St Giles, the slum area of London. And it shows a whole diverse group of Londoners drinking, smoking, dancing, flirting, fighting, you name it, it's going on. And there in the middle, underneath the left-hand side candelabra, below that is a black man in a white wig, wearing a blue sailor jacket. He's playing the violin. He's got this elaborate cocked hat with this gorgeous feather. And you can just see, he seems to be dancing in tune to his music, and you can just see the wooden top of what looks like a prosthetic leg. I saw this picture and I saw this representation of a really diverse Regency London, not the Bridgerton version, but a true mixture. The kind of London I recognized. I'm a Londoner. And I thought, who is that person? I want to know more about them. I want to write their biography. And that's what I set out to do. And this is Billy Waters, and this is his story. Next slide, please, Heyman. So Billy Waters wasn't just somebody who played the fiddle and danced and performed in the pub for money, like we saw in that previous picture. He was actually a Regency celebrity. We've forgotten about him now, but he was famous in the 1820s, famous around Britain, famous even around America. And he became famous because he was turned into a character in what we would now say would be the musical version of Life in London. So just like now, there's a super popular book, somebody comes along and thinks, I can make money turning that into a musical. Exactly the same thing happened in the 1820s. And the musical version of Life in London, which was called Tom and Jerry, funnily enough, that was put on first at this theatre here on London Strand, the Adelphi Theatre, which is still there. And again, it was a massive hit. The playwright boasted that he could shut down the Strand at 3 PM because of the sheer weight of people trying to get tickets for this production. And in the production, there was a scene set in that pub we just saw the picture of, and Billy Waters is in the middle of the scene, driving the action, wearing that incredible costume. He is depicted as the carnivalesque king of the beggars, the ultimate attractive outlaw, the leader of the gang on stage. So you can just imagine how vibrant that would have been, the music, the dancing, the singing, like a giant kind of version of Oliver on stage in the 1820s. So this play went around London, it went around the UK, it went around the States eventually, and Billy Waters became a name everybody knew. So, sounds really good so far, doesn't it? But there are some problems, 2 particular problems. Problem number 1 is how Billy Waters was represented in the scene. So Billy Waters, the character in this play, is, as I said, depicted as this kind of flamboyant king of the beggars, like this attractive outlaw. But he's also shown to be bullying, aggressive, and laughing at the people who give him money for his performances, saying they're fools. Now, this is a real problem because it wasn't the real man, Billy Waters, who was performing this scene on stage. Next, can you click on, please, Herman? In fact, the real Billy Waters was 100 yards down the street, performing his actual street performance of singing and dancing and fiddle playing with that amazing costume. He was performing it live. He was the real deal. He was the actual historic Billy Waters. On stage was a fictional version of him, a copy, that made him look like this deeply unpleasant, arrogant person who laughed at people who gave him money. Because he was the king of the beggars. He was well off. He didn't need them. So that was problem number 1, because the impact of this was that people started to think the real Billy Waters was like this fictional version. that the real Billy Waters, who was a well-known street musician in London, was actually a deeply unpleasant character. People stopped giving him money for his performances. So that was problem number one. Problem number two for the real Billy Waters was not just how he was portrayed on stage in the musical, but who portrayed him. He didn't get to play himself. It wasn't even a black actor playing him. It was a white, able-bodied actor who had his legs strapped up and who performed the role in blackface. So Waters had this, he created this incredible street act where he sings, he dances, he uses costume. It was hugely popular. One of Dickens's best friends called him a genius. And this makes him so popular that he gets turned into this character in the hit musical. But that very characterization turns back on himself. It destroys him. And not only that, but he sees no money for this version. His idea is stolen from him, essentially. He's plagiarized in a big way. And sadly, he dies in poverty in the workhouse. But where did Billy Waters come from? How did he end up on the streets of London performing in this costume with his fiddle? How did he get the wooden leg? How did he become disabled? Well, Waters was actually born in New York. He was born William Waters. He was born just as George Washington drives the British out of New York, just when America becomes America. Billy Waters was one of the first Americans. And very quickly, he realized that life as a black man, black boy, in the slave-holding society of New York City had few options for him. So he embraced a seagoing career. He went to sea and became a sailor, and eventually ends up in the British Navy, right in the middle of the Napoleonic Wars. He is quickly promoted to be a petty officer. So this tells us he was a very clever, very respected, very able person, not the comic buffoon person who's created for the stage musical, but somebody who is trusted at a very responsible level on a British warship. Everything seems to be going well in Billy Waters' life. He's got a good salary and a good position, but on one fateful day, there is a terrible accident, and he falls from the mainmast of his warship, comes crashing down onto the deck, and to save his life, they have to amputate one of his legs. He's lucky. He has a very good, if I can use that term, he has a very good surgeon on board his ship who clearly does the operation very quickly, because that was the knack before anesthetic. And Billy Waters is transferred from his ship to Haslar Hospital in Portsmouth. That's when he ends up in Britain. Again, certain amount of fortune, because Haslar Hospital is top-notch, state-of-the-art facility for looking after sailors. So now, though, Waters has a problem, a big problem. He needs to leave the Navy. He's discharged as a result of his accident, but he has a wife and 2 children to feed. What does he do now? He has a small pension, but he needs a new career. So he comes up with the most extraordinary answer to this problem, which is to become a well-known street performer, what we would now say a busker. he puts together a song and dance act where he plays the fiddle and he dances and he has this amazing costume. And people write about how amazing it was to see his performances, how talented he was. And he put together various musical, cultural influences from around the Atlantic world, from America, from the UK, from his sailor life, from the Black cultures of New York. All of that came together in his music. And he caught the eye of artists like in pictures like this one. I'm going to show you another couple of images. I warn you, they are very racialized and caricatured. So a warning about that, but I want to show you these images. I think it's important to see these images because it makes sense of what our resources are doing when you see how the 19th century showed Billy Waters. So there's pictures from different artists of him, and also these memorabilia of him, like these little statues that were produced that people bought. And as I say, he turns up in a book, in the musical that toured Britain and America. He was famous. People knew his name, and they were. He got very appreciative comments about his skill, his talents, his music. But also, of course, he was a victim of racist and ableist attitudes, and he was depicted in the 19th century in ways that we now find horrific. So, could you click on, please, Henry? I wanted to tell Billy Waters' story in my biography, and I did do that, but I was confronted by the problem of the empty archive. Waters left no diary, he left no papers, he was probably never allowed to learn how to read and write. And of course, as we all know, in history, marginalized people were deliberately erased, records weren't kept, information wasn't preserved. Nobody thought it was worth bothering to write down the details of Billy Waters' life. There are some documents, though, that do survive, and we've used these in the resource to make it very firmly research-based. So we found two ways as a project group to get around this problem. One is in the book, I very much look at Billy Waters' costume and think about what he's telling us. I tried to look with him rather than at him and think about what he's telling us about his life and his world. Secondly, we collaborated with other experts who were also really already interested in either Billy Waters or Black British history. In particular, singer-songwriter Angeline Morrison and artist Selena Scott. And from this desire to tell Billy Waters' story in a different way to how the 19th century did it, and to bring Billy Waters' story to classrooms. This is where resources came from. Heyman. I think you've frozen a bit, Heyman. Are you there? Can you flick the slide along? Well done.
Thank you, Mary, for such an inspiring and yet tragic story of Billy Waters. So our project is inspired heavily by Billy Waters' dancing. I have my copy of the book here. If you haven't come across this book yet, go ahead and check it out. It's a very fascinating read. Now, going back to our project, Billy Waters' Songs from the Shadow. It's a joint project with the University of Roehampton and Kent University. We have created a graphic novel and music and audio soundscapes specifically designed for students aged 11 or 16 or key stage 3 and 4, based on the life and music of Billy Waters. And the reference book is, I believe, Billy Waters is Dancing by Mary Shannon. So I'm going to walk you through the website to see how it works and what you can find on the website.
Who needs PR when you have Heyman? Like so.
If you can see it now. So the link is ageofrevolution.org. We have a separate homepage, Billy Waters, Songs from the Shadow. When you click on this link, it takes you to Billy Waters' Songs from the Shadow. There's some information on Billy Waters, and the first thing that you come across is request free copies of Billy Waters' Songs from the Shadows. When you click on this link, hopefully it'll take you to another web. Okay, finally. Now here you can request free copies of Billy Waters. When you scroll down, there is enough information on Billy Waters
You've
and
just
what we're
frozen,
doing here.
Heyman. It's just
I'm
jumping a
not
little
going
bit.
through all of them, but if you scroll down to the bottom here, educators may order free hard copies of Billy Waters. It takes you to, oh, I think it's because it's recording at the same time.
Yeah, I think
you
it's
can fill in
perhaps not.
information. You can
Yeah, it's just a bit
request
behind you.
either a full class, okay, where you can request the free copies of Billy Waters. And then you can either request a full class set of 32 copies or even one copy to check out and see the graphic novel to see how, if it suits your own teaching and your curriculum or whatnot. Now, if you go back to the same website, there is also a PDF version of the graphic novel that you can check out. I'm afraid if I open it, it's going to take a long while, so I'm going to skip this one. You just open it and you can see that everything is in color. You can see some of the images here uh, taken from the graphic novel itself. Like this is the second page, if I'm not mistaken. So if you go back, the first one, request free copies, going down, we have Billy Waters' Sonic Resource. This music is written and performed by award-winning folk musician Angeline Morrison, as Mary said. It's called Jump Billy, and the link is here. You can go and watch it on YouTube, and there is also the audio file of the same music that you can obviously play for your students for, for the class or in the middle of the class, or make some lessons around this as well. There will be also some digital soundscapes that we have created in cooperation with Chatham Dockyard. It somehow, in a nutshell, it brings Billy Waters' world to life to the students to understand what London looked like in 18th or 19th century. Correct me if I'm wrong, Mary, but this is what I get from this. Now, called educator resources, or what I simply call teachers support. This is where the teachers get 100% support, how to teach the resources, how suitable the resources are in terms of their curricula. And let's just click on it. Okay, this one was fast. There's a biographical video, Who Was Billy Waters, by Ben Marsh, a historian from Kent University. You can check it out yourself. And as an educator, how can I use these resources? There's a PDF file, specifically this one is about history. We have also created another one for English, which will be published and uploaded hopefully very soon. Now, these two PowerPoint resources, we have a historical reference set, and we also have the literary resource pack or resource set. And it's a PowerPoint. I'm not gonna open them, but you can see that, for example, in the literature, we have drawn literary comparisons to the story of Billy Waters, Robinson Crusoe, Jane Eyre, The Wonderful Adventure of Mrs. Seacole, Frankenstein, Mansfield Park, and all of these. I think it's likely that the text from the 19th century would be the ones that best connect with Billy Waters as a teaching resource. Novels such as Christmas Carol, Great Expectation, Jane Eyre, or even Stevenson's The Strange Case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, where it talks about the oppositions and duality, can be some points of comparison between Billy Waters' story and the resources that students teach in their classes. These texts overlap across different exam boards, such as AQA, EDXL, EduQuas, and OCR. I've collected almost all the text from these exam boards where teachers might find a link between Billy Waters' graphic novel and story and those texts, which will be also uploaded very soon. Now let's go back to use my PowerPoint.
You might need to unshare and then reshare, maybe? I don't know. We can still see the web page.
Yeah. Okay. How about now? It's too slow and free.
Let me try. If you unshare him and I can share for you.
Stop the share. I'm gonna just unclick out for some reason.
Heyman, if you unshare, I can try sharing for you.
We've also asked school, some of them focused on print. Let me see it to work. All right. So we think we have also asked school teachers to help us with designing one of lesson plans. Some of them focused on the cover image of the graphic novel. Some draw literary links between Billy Waters and all these texts that I have read to you. Others prefer to, for example, talk about only voice, like the voice of the marginalized people in literature. And we have collected like 5 or 6 examples of these lesson plans, which we'll also incorporate into the literary pack section on our website. You can check them out later. And when we asked school teachers why it's important to learn about the life of Billy Waters and why these resources are important, uh, some of them wrote, I'm going to read it to you, to amplify Black voices and disability, to show that Black people lived and created livelihood in the UK before the Windrush, to expand our knowledge of Black artists, And one of them said it will give the students a chance to see things from a different perspective. Now, our objective in creating these materials, like this graphic novel, is to make a change, however small, toward a better, more diverse and inclusive educational experiences for all students. And also, we hope that we will be able to participate in the ongoing discussions about the national curriculum. You might be aware that the curriculum is already under review. According to Professor Becky Francis, the chair of the Review and Assessment, many aspects of the current system are working well. However, there are issues with the shape and content of the curriculum. And also, the recently released interim report, which released a couple of days ago, highlighted the key areas for improvement, stating, and I quote, the national curriculum should remain relevant and up to date while embedding and recognizing the importance of cultural knowledge stemming from the past. It should enable learning to be situated in a range of local, national, and global context, and to ensure that young people see meaningful representations of themselves in what they learn, as well as encountering and recognizing the perspectives of others. So it is clear that Billy Waters' resources directly address these needs. And as both a historical figure and a character in the 19th century London, Billy Waters offers a compelling narrative and it enriches the curriculum by providing students with, let's say, a link or linking past to the present. Our initiative, well, we kindly ask you to check out the resources, see if they spark any ideas for your teaching. And we're super excited and super curious about how you use the resources in your classroom and what kind of feedback you and your students have for us. And unfortunately, there were instances where teachers used their resources without our knowledge, and they didn't tell us how they actually use the resources. So we are doing all of this for free, but would be very happy to hear from you, your feedback about students' feedback, or to see actually these resources work or not. Now, with the last slide. Again, there's a QR code. Please go ahead and scan this QR code. You can follow us on our social media, Age of Revolution, Dr. Marielle Shannon on Instagram. And feel free to email me if you have anything to say, any feedback or any sort of, if you needed any workshop from us. So I'm almost done. I was wary of the time, so I rushed through it. Mary, if you have anything else to say or if you have any questions, we'll be here.
Just to say, Heyman, you did beautifully there. Thank you so much. And just to say that I know you're going to show one of the sample lesson plans, the whiteboard slides that we've designed for teachers to essentially just drag and drop into your classroom off the shelf, go and run with it. But the tech wouldn't allow us to do that. So if you'd like to see any of the sample lesson plans or whiteboard slides before they become available on the website, feel free to drop us an email, get in touch, and we can send them to you.
You're right. Actually, I wanted to show some of the feedbacks or the activities that we designed specifically for students and the interesting feedbacks that we received. And but I dare not touch the screen. It's already frozen. So
Thank you so much, Mary and Hyman. Just fascinating. And the website, I've just been sort of poking around while you've been talking, such an incredibly rich resource. So thank you for sharing that with us. I really appreciate it. It's time for everybody to go. So I will let you go and thank you very much. And if anyone has any questions that we haven't managed to get to, you can also always email them to me and I can pass them on. Okay, so thank you ever so much for a really fascinating conversation. And thank you everyone for being here with us.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.